Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. What exactly is going on with John Fetterman, huh? I feel like we need to do some studies on the case of John Fetterman. The guy's brain needs to be scientifically analyzed, because generally when you fall victim to something as severe as a stroke, you're expected to come out on the other side a little bit damaged. And of course, initially that was the case with Senator Fetterman, but as time continues to pass here, it seems like something interesting is happening. It seems like John Fetterman is getting better and more intelligent. He's improving. It's a very, very interesting phenomenon. It's paradoxical in a sense. And now here I am, oddly enough, kind of liking John Fetterman. Do I agree with all of his politics? Of course not. But at least he's rational and he makes sense. You know, John Fetterman has been really winning me over lately. I feel like I could have dinner with this guy and really enjoy my time. And it's because of stuff like this. He's one of the only Democrats who's actually willing to tell the truth. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so just take a look at this.
So are you going to be Donald Trump's favorite Democrat in the Senate?
I don't know what that really means, because you never know. But what I am is I'm just a regular Democrat. I'm not leaving my party, but I'm not sure why some of the things that I've chosen to do, like meeting with nominees and having views that might be more aligned with some of the Republican side, I think that's part of politics, and that's pretty much consistent with just doing the job and representing the kind of state that we have in Pennsylvania.
Looking forward, what are you most optimistic about with a Trump presidency, and what do you fear?
Well, it's like I've been warning people, like, you got to chill out. You know, like the constant, freak out. It's not helpful. So, pack a lunch, pace yourself, because he hasn't even taken office yet.
Do you think he has the potential to be a successful and a good president?
I hope, because I'm not rooting against him. If you're rooting against the president, you are rooting against the nation.
You know, I didn't expect to say this, but John Fetterman just made one of the most sensible comments I've heard from a Democrat in a long time. He's flat out telling his party to calm down. Enough with the hysteria.
Stop it. Get some help.
And what's even more beautiful beyond the whole, stop being unhinged lunatics thing, he's telling his Democrat colleagues and his Democrat voters to actually start rooting for the country again. I mean, imagine that. Finally, someone on the left saying it's not helpful to freak out over every little thing that Donald Trump does. It's almost refreshing. And he even went as far to say that he hopes Trump does well, because as he points out, rooting against the president is like rooting against the country. And you know what? That's exactly right. It's common sense. Yet somehow the modern left has completely lost the plot, and they can't seem to understand this. They've gone so far off the deep end that they seem to oppose the idea of supporting their own nation's interest if it means giving Trump any credit. I mean, it feels like the modern American left these days roots more for the globalist and foreign leaders and foreign nations opposing Donald Trump antagonistically than they do support their own president and their own nation. Case in point, I mean, this video literally just popped up on my timeline like 2 seconds before I started recording this video.
Only if it benefits the people, and nothing that Donald Trump is proposing realistically benefits any of the people that who voted for him. And I do think one radical part that has emerged from Donald Trump's threats is these dynamic statements from world leaders. The Prime Minister of Greenland saying again, just like he did in 2019, Greenland is not for sale. The President of Panama saying the Panama Canal belongs to Panamanians, as well as the President of Mexico backing him up. I think what the world is primed for is a moment to push back against Donald Trump in unison in a way that diplomacy hasn't seen in a long time. And so I do think there is an opportunity for all of us to learn from global leaders who coordinate and align against Donald Trump and all of these asinine efforts that he's pushing for.
And let's really go over that quote. Quote, I think what the world is primed for is a moment to push back against Donald Trump in unison in a way that diplomacy hasn't seen in a long time. These leftoids are actively cheering on the idea that foreign nations would be working to push back against American interests in the American president. That's completely insane. It's also totally detached from reality because Donald Trump is being embraced like never before. I mean, we just saw him in Paris for the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Trump's being embraced like never before, but Democrats on their media outlets are talking about the world getting primed to push back in unison. And it's not the first time we've seen this. Even recently, we see it play out all the time. Take the situation with Canada, for instance. Trump's tariffs are clearly a bargaining chip. Everyone, including the Canadian government and the Canadian media, understands this. But if you look at Democrats on Twitter, it's almost as if they're cheering along Canada to start a trade war with the United States. And let's unpack that for a second. Not only is that anti-patriotic, but it's also politically clueless. The Canadian government, economy, and military has no real leverage here. They could never stand up to the United States. And deep down, everyone knows this. But instead of recognizing what Trump is trying to do, strengthening America's position, it seems as though they'd rather root for Justin Trudeau. It's absurd. I mean, even the Canadian voters aren't rooting for their own freaking prime minister. But American Democrats, they certainly are. And it's not just Canada. Look at the Panama Canal, for instance. Another one of Trump's fixations as of late. Trump's raising concerns about national security, talking about taking back control of a strategic asset that probably should have never been let go. And what's the left doing? They're siding with Panama. It's beyond crazy. I mean, it's exactly like the meme where if Donald Trump came out in favor of oxygen, the left would stop breathing out of spite. I think that perfectly captures the level of irrationality that we're dealing with here. And what's funny is that the left is constantly accusing Donald Trump of being the source of all political division in the country, right? Trump is the most divisive and controversial figure, blah, blah, blah. We've heard it a million times. But when you take a step back and you look at the bigger picture, it's obviously not Trump who's dividing America. It's them. It's their reaction to Donald Trump that makes it so difficult to engage with. They're the ones rooting against their own country's interests. They're the ones who've turned political disagreements into reasons to blacklist family members and friends, to exile them. You're not invited to Thanksgiving because you voted for Donald Trump. They're the ones that are making logical, productive conversations essentially impossible. I mean, even TYT founder Cenk Uygur seems to be coming to that conclusion as well. He recently tweeted about tribalism. He wrote this: "I have to admit I underestimated the tribalism on our side. I thought once people realize that I am defending left-wing positions in front of right-wing crowds, they would understand that that's not selling out. That's the opposite. But no, most seem to think that the mere act of talking to the other side is an unbearable act of heresy. We should never talk because that's appeasement. Winning the popular vote doesn't give them legitimacy, but one left-winger talking to them does. The fact that people can't see how crazy that sounds shows you how thick the bubbles are. Cenk, you're doing it again. You're qualifying. There's no both sides here. It's your bubble that's thick like that. It's the left-wing bubble." But anyways, he continues and writes, "I'm good with it. I'm always going to choose the most rational way to get the policies we want, whether people get furious about it or not. No, I don't think the right wing is going to magically give us everything we want. I also don't think yelling at them at the top of our lungs is going to accomplish that either. I know because I've tried that too." I'll tell you, he's not lying there. But anyways, the point is that even Cenk of all people is starting to wake up. I mean, just think about it. On the left, just the mere act of talking, engaging with the other side in conversation, is seen as betrayal. It turns you into a traitor. That's how thick their echo chamber has become. But anyways, here's the thing. Here's the conclusion. You don't have to like Donald Trump to root for America. You don't have to agree with every single policy to recognize that cheering against your own country's interest is totally insane. And maybe there was a day where the left used to understand this, but clearly in this day and age, they don't. They've been ideologically captured. They've been emotionally captured. The left used to stand for something more than just being anti-Trump, but now it seems like that's all they stand for. The whole platform is Trump bad, ooh, orange man bad. I mean, look how Kamala Harris ran her pathetic campaign, especially towards the end of it. It seems like all the left stands for these days is division and outrage. And obviously that doesn't benefit anyone. I'm no leftist and I don't think I ever will be, but I gotta tip my hat to John Fetterman. And I also hope that more people follow his lead, because at the end of the day, there's always gonna be that ideological tug of war, let's call it, back and forth. We're never gonna change that. It would just be a breath of fresh air if the modern left could collect itself and act rational for once. But I'm not so sure that's coming anytime soon. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.